Of Tea Time, and hosted by the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition. And today we have a special treat because we had an opportunity to be on site at the We the People rally in Teaneck, New Jersey on April 14th. And I'm here today with Laura Walsh.
Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Do you want to introduce our first set up our first scene that we're going to have?
Sure. We were so fortunate. We covered the event, We the People, and we the two first speakers are religious leaders. The first is Father Anthony, who is a professor at Seton Hall and an attorney, and he talks about liberty and religious freedom. And then the Reverend Kraft. So it's a wonderful segment. So we urge you to just to watch.
Okay.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty is the first of our rights of freedom. It is therefore fitting that when the Bill of Rights was ratified, religious freedom had the distinction of being the First Amendment. Religious liberty is indeed the first liberty. The First Amendment guarantees, quote, that Congress shall not make any law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What does that mean? It means that the federal government cannot establish a state church. The constraints are first on the government, not on religion. The First Amendment does not constrain religion or mute it in the public square or deprive religious people of a voice. Rather, the First Amendment first constrains government from interfering with the free exercise of religion. It was a religious movement, we should remind ourselves, thus religious liberty, that spurred on the abolitionist movement, which put an end to slavery just prior to the Civil War of 1861. And it was a religious movement, and therefore religious liberty, in which the clergy were the prime protagonists that spurred on the civil rights push in the 1960s. Reverend Martin Luther King boldly said in those days, quote, "The goal of America is freedom." The Obama administration's new mandate requiring that health insurance and the Affordable Health Care Act provide for contraception, for sterilization, both pharmacological and surgical, as well as abortion-inducing drugs, presents a serious threat to the freedom of religion. That mandate requires religious institutions who hire employees, as well as employers of religious faith, to violate their conscience and to pay for these procedures when their faith teaches them that they are intrinsically wrongful. My dear people, this is just one egregious example of big government's attempts to interfere with the natural right of religious liberty.
But how many of you would agree that no sooner we get one rascal out of office, there's 10 more rascals stepping up to the plate? Hello, somebody. Yeah. We can stand and deal with the leaves on the tree until hell freezes over. But until we do what John the Baptist said, that the axe, the spiritual axe, must be laid to the root of the tree. And the root of the tree is dealing with the spiritual forces and the moral forces that have brought down our great nation of America. Hello, somebody. Hallelujah. There you go. We have to make the first thing the first thing. And the first thing is, the Apostle Paul tells us from the scriptures that be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. How many strong people we have out here today? Yeah. then we must make the first thing the first thing. Drug control, gun control. Guns are not the problem. Drugs are not the problem. People, wicked men and women are the problem. And because, Lord Jesus, wicked men and women are the problem because they take their orders from the devil. There is a real devil, you all.
Yes, there is.
That's the White House.
Have we forgotten God in America? That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. Not gun control, not this, that, the other. We've forgotten God. And as a result, because we have sown wickedness, we are reaping the whirlwind. I don't care what Obama does. I don't care what Bush before him did. I don't care what Clinton before him did. I don't care what Bush Daddy Bush did. It makes no never mind. Because the real problem, ladies and gentlemen, is in the heart. The heart. The heart. Not Congress. Not the United States Senate. Not the House of Representatives, not the Supreme Court. There's only one Supreme Court, and it ain't in Washington. The Supreme Court is in heaven. We're being trampled. Where we were the greatest nation on earth, now we have rogue poop-butt nations, North Korea, little fat-faced chubby boy, talking about what he gonna do. Conservatives are not my problem. Liberals are not my problem. Obama's not my problem. Bush is not my problem. None of that's my problem. My problem is we have to stand up and look into the heavens, for which cometh our help. Our help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. I'm going to cry out to Jesus to fix this mess. And Jesus says, I'll fix it when you obey my commandments. I'll fix it when you give God his props and give him his due. I'll fix it when you stop looking to Washington and looking to Trenton and looking to the municipal building for your answers. I'll fix it. I told you, ladies and gentlemen, that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, God says I'll hear from heaven. Lord, hear us.
Laura, in those two segments, we saw the Reverend's two different messages that but still very compelling messages. And with the Reverend Kraft talking about how it's really an issue about bringing religion back into our lives, and with Father Anthony talking about how religious freedoms are being trampled on.
Exactly. It was very compelling, wasn't it? I mean, two different styles, but the message was very similar. I think, you know, Father Anthony's delivery was very low-key. He's a Catholic priest. We don't tend to get real Catholic. We don't tend to get real excited. But he was wonderful in that he was, Father was talking about how the First Amendment is the most important amendment because it's about our liberty and religion and the way our country was founded. It was founded right by religious people. They weren't secularists, right?
Absolutely.
You know, they believed in God. They believed in a deity, and the fact that the First Amendment was really designed to constrain government from setting up and imposing a religion on the rest of us, but that we were free to worship whoever we chose, right?
And it's a very solid message, because even when you talk about the pilgrims who came over for religious freedom, because the church had become corrupt, and the state and the church had become commingled. So, you know, when the message of Father Anthony in terms of how it's become twisted, and that, you know, they've made the message into, you know, religion does not belong in state. And that's really the wrong message, because as we know, in the founding, you need a moral people, religious people, in order for our republic to work.
Exactly. And that's where, you know, Reverend Kraft was really taking that message, right, and saying the goodness, you have to start with the heart, right? And the goodness of a person, and really the idea that we're free, but we're free to pursue life in pursuit of virtue.
Yes.
Right, you're not just free.
That's right.
Right,
Right.
big difference. There's a responsibility, right, and that that person is going to improve themselves, so they're worthy of their freedom.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it was interesting because with Reverend Kraft, he noted that, you know, it's again a problem with the heart. It's
Yes.
a problem with people not having religion in their lives and not acknowledging the importance of religion, which is how we've gotten to the place where we are, you know, which is where we're living in almost a backwards society, and that we not only as people who follow a Judeo-Christian belief, you know, you have to, you know, give homage
Yes.
to God.
Absolutely, and it's become a secular society, especially
Yes.
in our pocket right here in New Jersey and in the Northeast. It's very secular, and I think we feel the pressure, you know, in work and in you know, out in public. You know, it's just frowned upon, you know, to say Merry Christmas now. Right,
Absolutely.
that was we were shunned, and now my husband, of course, goes out of his way to very loudly wish everybody in Manhattan a Merry Christmas, and all the way back to New Jersey. But you know, it's sort of, you know, that's where we're at. We're in the South. What's interesting is the South, the Catholic Church is booming. We're here in the Northeast. We're closing parishes and schools, and we don't have enough priests for our masses. Down in the South, the parishes are booming. They're growing by leaps and bounds, and people think it's because religion in the South is much more a fabric in the fabric of the
Wow,
culture,
yes,
and
yes.
God is spoken of
Right.
freely.
Right.
And I don't know if that will stay the same or if it will change, but it appears that government mentality and the secular mentality are really influencing the way people feel about religion throughout the country, just based on where they are, where they live.
They've made. They've tried to picture people who are believing religion are ignorant,
Yes.
non-tolerant.
I think we're on the terrorist list now.
Yes.
Let's add that up.
Non-tolerant.
Right.
You know, people who are, you know, are ignorant because they don't believe in any type of science. And,
Right, right.
You know, so it's, you know, I once wrote a paper, and at the end of it, I told the professor I wrote, you know, I said religion doesn't preclude science. It just says that you have to approach it responsibly, with morality.
Exactly.
They can coexist.
Absolutely, faith and reason.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I thought that was a really good. You know, the father and reverend were really, you know, complementary.
Yes, they
right?
were. They were.
And their styles were very different, but their message was very powerful, and I think really resonated. There were about 150 to 200 people there.
Yes,
on
so
that
we
day.
had a very nice showing
Yes.
that day in the We the People rally. It was exciting to be there and see and hear the speakers. You know.
It was, and it was a great mix, you know. So we have, you know, the first segment was with religious freedom, and then the next segment will have, you know, some really great speakers as well who touch on different topics, you know.
So, but we do have some more speakers that
Yes.
we had an opportunity to hear that day,
Yes.
and they'll be coming up next.
Great.
So also remember to visit the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition site at njteapartycoalition.org.
I don't know what I was thinking when I agreed to come after the Reverend, because we the people, the first three words, three very simple words that is the focus of our rally today, to show that our Constitution was created by and for the everyday citizen, and that Americans are one people. We the people shows no classes, just Americans. By using the singular word people rather than the plural peoples, it shows that we Americans are united. Affordable Health Care Act. It means government control over your very health at a far greater cost in dollars and liberty. The balanced approach means tax the productive and give to others. Essentially, tax the American dream and give it to the dreamer. Common sense means infringing on our Second Amendment right to bear arms. What would Thomas Paine say about that? Fairness. Fairness means what Washington politicians and bureaucrats say it means, rather than what we know in our hearts from our Judeo-Christian values. Choice. Choice means taking choice from innocent life. Like the simple phrase, "we the people," the founders understood the simple truth of life. They understood the individual as the vessel of society, and as a rising tide raises the ship, so does the elevation of the individual raise the level of society. And how does an individual raise his level? Well, it doesn't take a village. It's quite the opposite. It takes parents, it takes family, it takes faith, and it takes the removal of impediments to our ambitions. As we all know, today our Second Amendment rights are under attack. If you don't own a gun, or you don't plan to own a gun, I think we all understand that, and we're fine with that. But make no mistake, you're still in this fight. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, is a right of the people guaranteed in the Constitution, the same as your religion, the same as your speech, and the same as our ability to meet here today peacefully. These common sense goal control laws are much about guns as Obamacare is about your health. As Rahm Emanuel infamously said, never let a good crisis go to waste. The Second Amendment was not ratified for hunters, as the media and politicians would have you believe. The Second Amendment right was guaranteed as a safeguard against our own government's tyranny. The founders risked their lives and their children's futures by acting. We risk our lives and our children's futures by not acting. Thank you.
Common Core violates 3 federal laws and the United States Constitution. Particularly, the constitutional argument is pretty clear. Education is not listed, and the enumerated powers of Congress found in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. The 10th Amendment clearly states that the power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Common Core was never approved by a legislator, either congressional or in the state. And it certainly is unknown, for the most part, to parents. There has not been one single field test. There has been no cost estimate, and there has been no public information available. The standards and assessments that are aligned with Common Core supposedly will take up to 2 weeks, if not more, of testing. We have 1,500 principals in the state of New York that have come out and said no more testing. And yet New Jersey was one of 45 states to put out their hand and take the money for Common Core, race to the top funding, without, even before the assessments were written. Another facet of this Common Core is an excessive amount of personal data or mining of personal data. This is not a partisan argument. There are all kinds of people who are putting up their hands saying, not with my child, you don't, or not with my students, you don't, or not with my teachers, you don't, or not with my taxpayers, you don't. By the way, I forgot to tell you, Bill Ayers is instrumental in developing the curriculum.
I just wanted to start off by telling a story that I was told yesterday by an activist up in northeastern Pennsylvania. He told me a story of an aunt. She's a Holocaust survivor. She traveled over to America to visit his family back in the 1970s. Now, he was a very intuitive kid, and he looked down at his aunt's wrist and saw her tattoo. He placed his hand on the tattoo and looked his aunt in the eye. And he said, "Don't worry, you're safe here." He said, "That can never happen here. This is America." Just like that, his aunt burst into tears and ran out of the room. A few moments later, his grandmother came into the room looking for him. Accustomed to the usual song of praise from his grandmother, he was shocked when she reared back and smacked him so hard he soared across the room. Why would you say that? Do you think we were stupid? Do you think that we ever thought it would happen to us? Do you not think we were cultured? Never think that it cannot happen here. What does the Second Amendment say? It says, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Let's take that first part, a well-regulated militia. being necessary to the security of a free state, sure. You need to keep an army to keep your country safe. Let's move on. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's key. This part talks about the people, not the militia. It's in contrast with the militia. This whole sentence does not give specific rights to the militia to keep and bear arms. It says the right of the people. The Founding Fathers were very specific in their language. They specifically separated the people and the militia because they themselves had just finished a 2-year war against a tyrannical militia. Gun control advocates who truly do not understand the wording will tell you that the comma separating the people and the militia is simply a pause and that the phrasing is clumsy. That's funny because they can't seem to find any other place where the writers screwed up the wording.
Okay, what's going on nationally is going on in the state of New Jersey, and you have to wonder what these people are thinking. Since January, they've introduced more than 76 pieces of anti-gun legislation, and there's no sign of stopping. Now, that's especially poignant in the Garden State, where gun rights basically have been reduced to hardly anything, okay? This is basically a gun banner's dream, this state, okay? Let me just summarize for all of you how New Jersey gun law works. Everything about guns is banned. Banned. Ownership, possession, transportation, transport, transfer, usage, except where the government allows it. Okay? So there's these general ban and then these little teeny tiny exceptions. Now imagine for a second if you did that with the First Amendment. All free speech is banned except where the government allows it. Does that make any sense? Some of the bills that are coming up are insane, like if you want to keep your guns, you've got to have a home inspection and a psychological evaluation. Presumes that you're crazy until you're proven sane. One of the latest things to crop up Friday is a bill that would, if you're a gun owner, would put that fact on your driver's license. It's not somebody else that's going to stand and fight. It's all of us. Nobody's going to do it for us. So I'm going to say to you, if you're not an ANJRPC member or NJ2AS or NRA, join. That hearing was a kangaroo court. And let me just say the chair of that committee, for those of you who weren't there, actually said at one point when they weren't taking testimony and they started voting, he actually said that, don't worry, we will take your testimony after we've finished voting. Okay, he actually said that. Right now, these guys think it is in their political interest to do this. We have to teach them a lesson they will never forget and show them otherwise.
The U.S. tax code is so broken and so overburdensome that it discourages growth and productivity and punishes investments and savings. The time has come to throw out the current tax code and replace it with something simple, fair, and transparent. The fair tax completely repeals the 16th Amendment and the income tax, which has shackled our freedoms for 100 years. The fair tax completely eliminates personal income tax, corporate income tax, payroll taxes, capital gains taxes, the estate tax, alternate minimum tax, and the gift and self-employment tax. It then replaces these taxes with a single national retail sales tax. The fair tax is designed to be revenue neutral, so it will not add to the deficit. The fair tax essentially taxes consumption on all new goods and services, no new goods are taxed, with a single retail sales tax rate. Just eliminating the payroll tax alone will help the average American see an immediate 25 to 30% increase in take-home pay. The fair tax treats every American and every business the same. No more loopholes and deductions that benefit a few. Washington, D.C. will no longer pick winners and losers. Everyone will have equal opportunity, and no business or American will have any unfair advantage over another. Another key component of the fair tax, and my favorite part, is the elimination of the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS. The IRS has grown from a small agency to a bureaucratic nightmare that seeks to invade the personal financial lives of every American. The fair tax is clearly a bold solution, and it will boost this economy.
Wow, Laura, that was a lot to take in with those different speakers that we had. We had the gentleman from Heritage Action,
yes,
as well as the Second Amendment. Let's talk about the message in that the Heritage Action piece.
That was great. Mike Henry is a young kid, and I think he's still in college, actually,
Wow.
which was so nice because he and Tom are both, both college kids. And it's just good to see, that kind of involvement.
Gives you hope, right?
Yeah, it does. So Mike Henry was talking about his friend whose grandmother was in the Holocaust, and made the comment to his grandmother that, oh, this will never happen here. And she got so upset and said, what do you think? I was an idiot back then? Of course it can happen here, right?
And that's a powerful, powerful message, because a lot of what we're seeing are bits and pieces of our freedoms being taken away bit by bit, and so slowly that people don't think it can happen. I mean, people don't realize Germany was at the top. These were cultured people, smart people. I mean, that's where science and literature and music was coming from.
Right.
So these were not dumb people. It was a cultured society.
Yes.
And it happened there.
Right.
So who's to say that through all these usurping of our the Second Amendment, wanting them to take the guns away, and the religious freedoms, challenging the religious freedoms that we have, these are all key cornerstones to our society that are being taken away bit by bit.
Exactly, and I think they say, when a collapse occurs, it's slow until it's not.
Right, and then it's a rush. Trickle, trickle, boom. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's what you're referring to, like where the totality of it all, right, is difficult to comprehend because people are busy. They're not really thinking about it. But when back to Germany, I always wondered as a kid, to read these stories, with Anne Frank, and I think to your point, there was such a cultured society, and how could that happen?
Right.
But now I understand.
You see it. Because you see it happening before your eyes. And when we talk about our First Amendment right, they were enumerated for a reason.
Yes.
Because they were important.
Right.
And the founders knew how important these things were.
Right.
And the Second Amendment securing that First Amendment right, how important that is.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing these freedoms being challenged on a daily basis. And even when we talk about Obamacare, which was created under the guise of providing health care, but now we're finding out that again many of our freedoms are being challenged with having to give the IRS our information, and giving bank account information, and our children's information, and going into Common Core,
right?
Which is another assault, because now they don't even want you to have any freedom over how your child is educated.
That's right. That's right. And it used to be education was local. It was local school board, local parents. Curriculum was crafted to the values of the parents and the community, and it's all become nationalized.
Wow.
Right? It's all central out of Washington.
And so just looking at this entire package, where it's giving us a taste of really what's going on in this We the People rally. So we've covered a lot, so we've got to close it down now. And everybody, come to our website and make sure you take a second look, and we hope you enjoyed the show today. In the background, it's like,